Hello friends, welcome to Animeverse_lore. We continue the story What If Minato Survived? The world where all realities meet. Naruto stepped through the white light. For a moment, he couldn't hear anything. Then he opened his eyes. He was standing in Konoha. But something was different. The village looked familiar. Yet Naruto could sense countless different versions of the same place. One Konoha existed above the clouds. Another was surrounded by enormous walls. Another had technology far beyond anything Naruto had ever seen. And another looked exactly like the Konoha he knew. Naruto looked at Minato. Dad. Minato smiled. Looks like we're home. Sasuke activated his Rinnegan. No. Naruto looked at him. What? Sasuke pointed toward the village. This isn't our Konoha. Kai looked at the golden leaf. It's all of them. Quote, every reality had merged into one enormous world. Different versions of Konoha. Different versions of Shinobi. Different histories. Different futures. All existing together. Kakashi looked around. This is going to be complicated. Sakura smiled. That's one way to describe it. Suddenly, thousands of people appeared in the village. Some were familiar. Some were completely unknown. Naruto noticed one person immediately. A different Sasuke was standing across the street. He had longer hair and wore a white cloak. The alternate Sasuke looked at the original Sasuke. So you're the version who stayed with Naruto. Original Sasuke narrowed his eyes. And you're the version who left him. The alternate Sasuke smiled. Yes. Naruto stepped between them. Not today. Both Sasukes looked at Naruto. The alternate Sasuke laughed. You really are the same in every world. Quote, Naruto smiled. Unfortunately for you. Suddenly, the sky darkened. Everyone looked upward. A massive symbol appeared above the village. The symbol looked like a black crown. Kai's golden leaf began shaking. Something is wrong. Minato looked at the sky. That symbol. Naruto asked. You know it. Minato shook his head. No, but I can sense danger. The black crown began descending. A voice echoed across the merged world. Every reality has finally gathered. Naruto stepped forward. Show yourself. A figure appeared above the village. He wore black armor. His face was hidden behind a white mask. Sasuke immediately activated his Rinnegan. I can't read his chakra. The figure laughed. Because I don't use chakra. Naruto asked. Then what do you use? The figure removed his mask. Everyone froze. He looked like Minato, but older. His hair was black. His eyes were completely red. Minato stared at him. Who are you? The man smiled. The Minato who existed before you. Naruto's eyes widened. Before my father. The man nodded. I was the first version of Minato Namikaze. Minato stepped forward. That doesn't make sense. The man answered. Every reality has a beginning. And before your reality, there was mine. Naruto looked at him. What happened to your world? The man smiled. I destroyed it. Silence filled the village. Minato tightened his grip on his kunai. Why? Because I wanted to create a perfect world. Quote, Naruto remembered Shinra. That's the same mistake everyone makes. The man looked at Naruto. Not me. I succeeded. Naruto frowned. Then why are you here? The man's smile disappeared. Because perfection became boring. Quote, he raised his hand. The merged world began shaking. Buildings started changing. People began disappearing. Different realities started separating. Kai shouted. The world is collapsing. Sasuke looked at the sky. The merged reality can't sustain itself. Naruto turned toward the masked Minato. Stop this. The man laughed. Why? This world was never supposed to exist. Naruto raised his hand. Then we'll make it exist. Quote, the golden leaf appeared. Every version of Naruto across the merged world suddenly raised their hands. Golden light filled the sky. The masked Minato looked shocked. What are you doing? Naruto smiled. Making a choice. Thousands of Narutos joined their power. The merged world stabilized. The masked Minato stared at them. For the first time, he looked afraid. Naruto stepped forward. You wanted a perfect world. Quote, I don't. I want a world where people can make mistakes. Where they can change. Where they can choose. The masked Minato's eyes turned red. Then I'll show you what choice really costs. He disappeared. A second later, Minato collapsed. Naruto caught him. Dad. Minato looked at his chest. A black symbol had appeared. Naruto's expression changed. The masked Minato's voice echoed across the world. Let's see how long your perfect family survives. The black symbol began spreading across Minato's body. Naruto clenched his fists. No. The golden leaf suddenly turned completely white. Kai looked at it. The leaf is reacting to Minato. Naruto looked at his father. Then we'll save him. Minato smiled weakly. I knew you would. And somewhere beyond the merged world, the masked Minato was waiting. Because he had one final secret. He wasn't trying to destroy Naruto. He was trying to awaken something inside him. The awakening. Naruto knelt beside Minato. Dad. Minato tried to stand, but the black symbol spread further across his chest. Sakura rushed toward him. Don't move. She placed her hand over the mark. Her expression immediately changed. This isn't a normal seal. Naruto looked at her. Then what is it? Sakura shook her head. It's reacting to Minato's chakra. Sasuke activated his Rinnegan. Not just his chakra. Everyone looked at him. It's reacting to every version of Minato in this world. Kai looked at the golden leaf. The leaf is connected to it too. Naruto clenched his fist. So the masked Minato isn't attacking Dad. Sasuke nodded. He's using him as a connection. Suddenly, every alternate Minato in the merged world stopped moving. One by one, black symbols appeared on their bodies. Naruto looked around in shock. There are thousands of them. Kai's face became pale. That's what he wanted. Naruto looked at him. What? Kai pointed toward the sky. The black crown isn't controlling the worlds. It's connecting them. Sasuke understood. And Minato is the center. A deep voice echoed across the village. Now you finally understand. The masked Minato appeared above them. Naruto stood up. Remove the seal. The masked Minato smiled. I can't. Naruto narrowed his eyes. Why? Because I didn't create it. Minato slowly opened his eyes. I remember this. Naruto turned toward him. What? Minato looked at the black symbol. I've seen it before. Where? In my dreams. The masked Minato laughed. Not dreams. Memories. Minato's expression changed. I was a child. I saw a destroyed village. Quote. I saw Naruto standing alone. And I saw myself. Naruto became silent. The masked Minato continued. That was the future I came from. Minato looked at him. Then why did you come here? The masked Minato's eyes became cold. Because I discovered something. What? Your survival wasn't an accident. Naruto frowned. What do you mean? The masked Minato pointed at Minato. The night of the Nine Tails attack. Someone changed the original timeline. Quote. Minato's eyes widened. Who? The masked Minato looked at Naruto. He did. Naruto stepped back. Me. You were the reason destiny changed. Naruto shook his head. I was a baby. Exactly. Quote. The masked Minato smiled. That is what makes you dangerous. Suddenly, the black symbols on every Minato began glowing. A massive wave of energy spread across the merged world. Buildings started disappearing. People began screaming. Naruto looked around. Stop this. The masked Minato raised his hand. Choose. Naruto froze. Choose what? Your father. Or every other reality. Naruto stared at him. The masked Minato continued. If Minato remains here, the other realities will collapse. If you send him back to the original timeline, your world will disappear. Naruto clenched his fists. There has to be another way. Quote. The masked Minato smiled. That's what every Naruto says. Minato grabbed Naruto's arm. Don't listen to him. Naruto looked at his father. Dad. Minato smiled. I've faced impossible choices before. Quote. And I always believed there was another answer. Naruto's eyes filled with determination. Then I'll find it. The golden leaf suddenly became brighter. White light surrounded Naruto. Kai looked shocked. The leaf is changing again. Sasuke stared at Naruto. His chakra is disappearing. Naruto looked at his hands. The golden chakra around him was fading. But something else was appearing. White marks covered his arms. The masked Minato's expression changed. No. Naruto looked at him. What? You shouldn't be able to do that. Naruto smiled. Then I guess I'm doing something right. The white energy spread from Naruto to Minato. The black symbol on Minato began cracking. The masked Minato shouted. Stop. Naruto pushed harder. The mark shattered. A massive explosion of white light covered the village. When the light disappeared. Minato was standing again. The black mark was gone. Naruto smiled. Dad. Minato looked at him. You did it. Naruto shook his head. We did. But Sasuke suddenly looked toward the sky. Naruto. Quote. Naruto turned. The black crown was gone. But something much larger had appeared. A giant golden clock floated above the merged world. Its hands were moving backward. Kai stared at it. That's impossible. Quote. Naruto asked. What is it? Kai answered. The timeline clock. Sasuke's expression became serious. It's counting down. To what? Kai looked at Naruto. The moment every reality becomes one. Quote. The masked Minato smiled. You saved your father. Naruto looked at him. Yes. But now. The masked Minato pointed toward the clock. You have only 1 hour before every reality becomes permanent. Quote. Naruto's expression changed. If that happens, the masked Minato answered, every version of everyone will exist forever. Sasuke frowned. That sounds good. The masked Minato shook his head. No, it means every world will fight for control. Naruto looked around. Thousands of different shinobi were already staring at each other. Different villages, different histories, different versions of the same people. The masked Minato disappeared into the sky. His final words echoed across the world. Let's see which reality survives. Naruto looked at Minato. Minato looked back. Then Naruto smiled. 1 hour. Quote. Minato nodded. Then we better move fast. Sasuke opened a dimensional portal. Where are we going? Naruto looked toward the timeline clock. To the place controlling it. Kai raised the golden leaf. The center of the merged reality. Naruto stepped toward the portal. And this time, we end this. The center of all realities. Naruto stepped through Sasuke's portal. Minato followed closely behind. Sasuke, Sakura, Kakashi, and Kai entered after them. The portal closed. For a moment, there was complete darkness. Then Naruto opened his eyes. They were standing in a massive empty space. There was no ground, no sky, no horizon, only countless glowing lines stretching in every direction. Each line represented a different reality. Kai looked around. This is the center. Naruto stared at the endless lines. All these worlds, they're connected here. Sasuke activated his Rinnegan. I can see the timeline clock. Naruto looked upward. Far above them, the enormous golden clock was floating. Its hands continued moving backward. How much time? Kai looked at it. 47 minutes. Naruto clenched his fist. Then let's find the control point. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the darkness. You came. Everyone turned. The masked Minato stood on one of the glowing paths. But this time, he wasn't wearing his mask. Naruto looked at him. Why are you hiding your face? The man smiled. I don't need to anymore. Minato stepped forward. Tell us how to stop the clock. The masked Minato shook his head. You can't. Naruto frowned. Why? Because the clock isn't being controlled. Then what's making it move? Quote. The masked Minato pointed toward Naruto. You are. Naruto froze. What? Every choice you make changes reality. Every decision creates another possibility. The clock measures those possibilities. Quote. Naruto looked at the glowing paths. Then why is it counting backward? The masked Minato answered. Because reality is running out of space. Sasuke understood. Too many timelines. Exactly. Quote. The masked Minato looked at Naruto. You saved the merged world. You saved your father. You saved the forgotten worlds. But every time you saved someone, you created another reality. Naruto became silent. Minato stepped beside him. Then what do you want Naruto to do? The masked Minato answered. Stop choosing. Naruto looked at him. What? Make no more choices. If you stop making choices, the timelines will stop multiplying. Quote. Naruto shook his head. No. The masked Minato smiled. I knew you would say that. Suddenly, hundreds of portals opened. Alternate versions of Naruto appeared. Some wore different clothes. Some had different eyes. Some carried strange weapons. Some looked like heroes. Others looked like villains. They all surrounded Naruto. One of them stepped forward. You created us. Another said. You abandoned us. Another shouted. Our worlds are dying because of you. Naruto looked around. He didn't attack. Instead, he lowered his kunai. I'm sorry. Everyone became silent. Naruto continued. I didn't know you existed. But now I do. And I'm not going to erase you. One alternate Naruto laughed. Then what will you do? Naruto looked toward the timeline clock. I'll create a world where none of us has to disappear. Quote. Sasuke looked at him. That's impossible. Naruto smiled. Maybe. But we've done impossible things before. Minato placed his hand on Naruto's shoulder. Then let's do one more. Suddenly, the golden leaf appeared. But this time, it wasn't in Kai's hand. It floated between all of them. Kai stared at it. The leaf has chosen everyone. The golden leaf split into thousands of pieces. Each piece entered a different reality. The glowing lines began connecting. The alternate Narutos stopped fighting. The timeline clock slowed down. The masked Minato looked shocked. No, Naruto looked at him. You were wrong. The masked Minato shook his head. How? Naruto answered. Choices don't have to create separate worlds. They can connect them. Sasuke smiled slightly. He's right. He raised his hand. I can stabilize the dimensional boundaries. Quote. Sakura stepped forward. I'll stabilize the chakra flow. Kakashi nodded. I'll protect the connection points. Kai raised both hands. And I'll keep the golden leaf active. Minato looked at Naruto. And you? Naruto smiled. I'll do what I always do. Believe in everyone. The entire center of reality began glowing. The timeline clock stopped. For the first time, its hands stopped moving backward. The masked Minato stared at Naruto. You really think this will work? Naruto nodded. Yes. The masked Minato looked toward the countless connected realities. Then he slowly removed his black gloves. I wanted a perfect world. Naruto answered. And you got something better. What? A world that can change. The masked Minato looked at Naruto for a long moment. Then he smiled. Maybe. I was wrong. Quote. Suddenly, a massive crack appeared behind him. His body began disappearing. Naruto stepped forward. Wait. The masked Minato looked back. I can't stay. Why? Because I'm from a timeline that no longer exists. Quote. Naruto's expression became sad. But you can choose where you go. The masked Minato smiled. For the first time. You're right. He looked toward Minato. Take care of him. Minato nodded. I will. The masked Minato disappeared into the light. The timeline clock began changing. Its golden surface turned white. The countdown stopped. Kai smiled. We did it. Sasuke looked toward the connected realities. Not yet. Naruto turned. What? Sasuke pointed toward the darkness. There is still one reality that hasn't connected. Naruto looked at it. A single black line existed far away from all the others. It was completely silent. No chakra, no light, no life. Naruto stared at it. What world is that? Kai's smile disappeared. I don't know. Minato looked at the black line. Neither do I. Suddenly, a voice came from that reality. You should have left us forgotten. Naruto's expression became serious. The black line began opening. Something stepped through. A figure wearing a white cloak. His face was hidden, but his voice was familiar. Very familiar. Because now, you have awakened us. The figure removed his hood. Naruto froze. It was another Naruto, but unlike every version before him. He had no eyes. And he was smiling. The blind Naruto. The new Naruto stood silently in the center of all realities. He had no eyes. Yet somehow, he was looking directly at the original Naruto. Naruto tightened his grip on his kunai. Who are you? The blind Naruto smiled. I am the Naruto from the world that was erased before reality even began. Sasuke activated his Rinnegan, but his expression immediately changed. I can't see his chakra. Quote. The blind Naruto laughed. Because I don't have any. Naruto stepped forward. Then how can you see? The blind Naruto touched his forehead. I don't see worlds. I see choices. Naruto frowned. What does that mean? The blind Naruto pointed toward the countless realities. Every world you see, every Naruto, every Minato, every Sasuke, they are all results. Results of choices. Quote. He pointed toward Naruto. But I am the choice that was never made. Kai looked at the golden leaf. The forgotten world. The blind Naruto nodded. Even deeper. The forgotten world contained possibilities that were rejected. Quote. I came from the place beneath it. Sakura asked. What is beneath the forgotten world? The blind Naruto smiled. Nothing. That's where I was born. Minato stepped forward. If you were born from nothing. Quote. Why did you come here? The blind Naruto looked at him. Because Naruto changed the rules. Naruto became silent. What rules? The blind Naruto answered. Reality used to have only two options. Quote. Exist. Or disappear. But Naruto created a third. Connect. The timeline clock began glowing. Sasuke looked upward. The clock is reacting to him. The blind Naruto nodded. Of course. I am the consequence. Naruto raised his kunai. If you're here to destroy everything, I won't let you. The blind Naruto laughed. I don't want to destroy anything. Naruto lowered his weapon slightly. Then what do you want? I want to see what happens when every reality makes the same choice. Naruto frowned. Which choice? The blind Naruto smiled. Freedom. Suddenly, every reality became silent. Every Naruto stopped. Every Minato stopped. Every Sasuke stopped. The entire multiverse waited. The blind Naruto raised his hand. Choose. A voice echoed across every world. Do you want to remain separate? Quote. Or become one? Naruto looked around. Thousands of versions of himself were waiting. Some wanted independence. Some wanted unity. Some were afraid. Some were angry. Naruto understood. This wasn't a battle. It was a choice. Naruto looked at Minato. What would you choose? Minato smiled. I'd choose whatever lets you live your life. Naruto looked at Sasuke. Sasuke answered. I don't care which world exists. Quote. I care that people have the freedom to choose. Naruto looked at Sakura. She smiled. Then you already know the answer. Naruto closed his eyes. He thought about everything. The Nine Tails. Minato. Konoha. The Golden Leaf. The Forgotten World. Every Naruto he had met. Every reality that had been saved. Then he opened his eyes. I choose both. The blind Naruto smiled. Explain. Every reality stays itself. Quote. But no reality is alone. The golden leaf exploded with light. Golden connections spread between every world. Not merging them. Not separating them. Connecting them. The timeline clock transformed. Its golden face disappeared. In its place appeared a massive white tree. Each branch represented a different reality. And every branch was connected to the others. Kai stared in amazement. The timeline clock has become the world tree. Quote. Naruto smiled. So every world can choose its own future. Without destroying the others. The blind Naruto nodded. Now you understand. But suddenly, he began disappearing. Naruto stepped forward. Wait. The blind Naruto smiled. My purpose is complete. What happens to you? I return to nothing. Naruto shook his head. You don't have to. The blind Naruto looked surprised. Naruto held out his hand. Come with us. The blind Naruto stared at his hand. For what? For a future you haven't chosen yet. For the first time, the blind Naruto stopped smiling. Then he took Naruto's hand. The moment they touched, his eyes appeared. They were blue, just like Naruto's. The blind Naruto whispered, I can see. Naruto smiled. Welcome. Suddenly, the world tree shook. Everyone looked upward. A dark shadow appeared above the highest branch. Kai's expression changed. That's not a reality. Sasuke narrowed his eyes. Then what is it? The blind Naruto looked terrified. I know that presence. Naruto turned toward him. Who is it? The blind Naruto answered. The one who created the first choice. A deep voice echoed across the multiverse. You have connected everything. The shadow slowly descended. And now, you have finally made yourselves visible. Quote. Naruto raised his kunai. The shadow smiled. Good. I was getting tired of waiting. The world tree began turning black. And for the first time, even the blind Naruto was afraid. The creator of the first choice. The world tree continued turning black. One branch after another began losing its light. Naruto looked at the blind Naruto. You said you knew this presence. The blind Naruto nodded. I know what it is. Quote. Then tell me. He looked toward the dark figure. That is the creator. Minato frowned. Creator of what? The blind Naruto answered. The first choice. Sasuke's expression became serious. You're saying someone created the concept of choice itself. The blind Naruto nodded. Before the first universe existed, there was only silence. No time, no space, no life. Then the creator made the first decision. Quote. Naruto asked. What decision? The blind Naruto looked at him. To exist. Suddenly, the dark figure stepped onto the world tree. Every reality shook. The figure was wearing a simple white cloak. No armor, no weapon, no visible chakra, yet every being in every world could feel his presence. He looked at Naruto. You have done something remarkable. Naruto raised his kunai. Who are you? The figure smiled. My name is Ion. Kai's golden leaf immediately reacted. The leaf began shaking violently. Kai looked shocked. The leaf recognizes him. Ion looked at Kai. Of course it does. Quote. I created it. Everyone froze. Naruto looked at the golden leaf. You created the golden leaf. Ion nodded. I created the first version of it. Then why did you let it fall into our world? Because I needed someone to find it. Naruto narrowed his eyes. Me. Ion smiled. Yes. Naruto became angry. So everything that happened, the void, Shinra, the eternal core, the forgotten world, quote, the masked Minato, all of it was your plan. Ion shook his head. No, those were consequences. Naruto frowned. Then what was your plan? Ion pointed toward the world tree. I wanted to know whether reality could survive freedom. Quote, Sasuke stepped forward, and Ion looked at Naruto. I still don't know. Naruto clenched his fist. You used millions of people as an experiment. Ion's expression remained calm. Would you rather I controlled them? Quote, Naruto answered immediately. No, then you understand. Naruto shook his head. Freedom isn't something you give people to test. Ion smiled. Interesting. You are beginning to understand why I chose you. Quote, Minato stepped beside Naruto. Stay away from my son. Ion looked at Minato. You. Minato narrowed his eyes. You changed the first timeline. Ion continued. You were never supposed to survive. Quote, Minato answered. And yet I did. Ion smiled. That was the first true choice. Naruto looked at his father. What does that mean? Ion explained. The original timeline demanded Minato's death. Quote, but Minato chose to survive. That choice created a new reality. That reality created Naruto. And Naruto created everything that followed. Naruto stared at him. So Dad's survival started all of this. Quote, Ion nodded. And your existence gave those choices a direction. Suddenly, the world tree began glowing again. The black corruption stopped spreading. Ion looked surprised. Naruto realized something. The tree is rejecting you. Ion looked at Naruto. No, it is choosing. Naruto smiled. Exactly. The blind Naruto stepped forward. Every world is choosing. Minato raised his kunai. Sasuke activated his Rinnegan. Sakura prepared herself. Kakashi opened his Sharingan. Kai raised the golden leaf. Thousands of alternate versions of Naruto appeared across the branches. One by one, they stood together. Ion looked around. You believe numbers can defeat me? Naruto shook his head. No, we don't need to defeat you. Ion raised an eyebrow. Then what? Naruto pointed toward the world tree. We choose our own future. Quote, the golden leaf exploded with light. Every reality began glowing. The black corruption disappeared from the branches. Ion watched silently. Then, he smiled. Finally, Naruto froze. What? Quote, Ion stepped backward. You passed. The entire world tree became completely white. Naruto looked confused. Past what? Ion answered. The final test. Sasuke frowned. Test. Ion nodded. I never wanted to destroy your realities. I wanted to know if beings with unlimited choices would choose cooperation. Naruto became angry. You could have just asked. Ion laughed. Would you have believed me? Quote, Naruto paused. No. Ion smiled. Exactly. Then he raised his hand. The world tree opened a massive white portal. Your story is not ending. Naruto looked through it. Then where does it lead? Quote, Ion answered. To the place where the first universe was born. Minato looked at Naruto. Ready. Naruto smiled. Always. The group stepped toward the portal. But before Naruto entered, Ion whispered. One warning. Naruto turned. What? Ion's smile disappeared. Whatever you find there, do not make the first choice again. Naruto frowned. Why? Ion looked toward the darkness beyond the portal. Because the first choice was never supposed to be made twice. The portal opened completely. And on the other side, Naruto saw a world without a sky. A world without land. A world where a single golden light floated in complete darkness. The first universe. And something was waiting beside it. The first universe. Naruto stepped through the portal. The moment he entered, everything became silent. No wind, no sound, no chakra, not even the feeling of gravity. He looked around. There was nothing, only endless darkness. In the center of that darkness floated a single golden light. Minato stepped beside him. Is that it? Ion's voice echoed from behind them. That is where everything began. Naruto stared at the light. The first universe. Sasuke activated his Rinnegan. His eyes widened. I can't see its beginning. Kai looked at the golden leaf. It's older than the leaf. Quote, Sakura asked. Then what is it? Ion answered. The first possibility. Naruto stepped closer. The golden light suddenly became brighter. A voice came from inside it. Who has entered my world? Quote. Naruto stopped. I am Naruto Uzumaki. The voice became silent. Then it asked, which Naruto? Naruto looked around. The one who chose to survive. The golden light began changing. A massive image appeared inside it. Naruto saw Minato holding him as a baby. He saw the Nine Tails attack. He saw Minato survive. Then the image changed. He saw another timeline. Minato died. Another timeline. Naruto became a rogue ninja. Another. Sasuke became Hokage. Another. Konoha never existed. Millions of possibilities appeared at once. Naruto stepped back. These are all the first choices. Aion nodded. Every reality began with one. Quote. Minato looked at the golden light. Then what happens if someone makes another choice here? Aion's expression became serious. That is why I warned Naruto. Naruto frowned. What would happen? The entire multiverse would restart. Sasuke's eyes widened. Every reality would be erased. Aion nodded. Every person, every memory, every relationship, everything. Naruto looked at the golden light. Then why bring us here? Aion answered. Because someone else already entered. Everyone became silent. Minato immediately reached for his kunai. Who? Aion looked toward the darkness. I don't know. Quote. Suddenly, the golden light turned black. A deep voice echoed through the universe. You finally arrived. Naruto's eyes widened. That voice sounded familiar. Too familiar. The darkness began forming a human shape. First the feet, then the body, then the face. Naruto froze. It was him, but not any version they had seen before. This Naruto had golden eyes. His hair was completely white, and on his forehead was the symbol of the golden leaf. Naruto whispered, "Who are you?" The white-haired Naruto smiled. "I am the first Naruto." Minato stepped forward. "That is impossible." The first Naruto looked at him. Everything is impossible until someone chooses it. Quote. Naruto stared at him. "Why are you here?" The first Naruto answered. "Because I made the first choice." Naruto's expression changed. "You were the one who created the first reality." "No, I was the first person to exist inside it." Quote. Sasuke asked. "Then why were you hidden?" The first Naruto looked toward the golden light. "Because I made a mistake." "What mistake?" The first Naruto's smile disappeared. "I chose to create a world without pain." Quote. Naruto became silent. The first Naruto continued. "I removed fear. I removed loss. I removed hatred. I removed death. For a while, everyone was happy." Minato asked. "Then what happened?" Quote. The first Naruto looked at him. "They stopped choosing." Sasuke understood. "A perfect world." The first Naruto nodded. "Without pain, there was nothing worth protecting. Without loss, nobody understood love." Quote. "Without failure, nobody learned. Without choice, there was no freedom." Naruto looked at him. "So you destroyed your own world?" The first Naruto answered. "No, I gave it a choice. And the world chose to destroy itself." Naruto became silent. The first Naruto walked toward him. "That is why I have been watching you. Me, you faced pain. You faced loss. You faced impossible choices." Quote. "And every time, you still chose to protect others." Naruto clenched his fist. "So what do you want?" The first Naruto looked directly into his eyes. "I want you to make one final choice." Naruto asked. "What choice?" The golden light suddenly split into two paths. One path was bright, the other was completely dark. The first Naruto pointed toward them. "Choose one." Minato stepped forward. "Don't do it." Naruto looked at his father. "Why?" "Because Aion warned us." The first Naruto smiled. "Your father is right." Naruto stared at him. "If you choose either path, one half of reality will disappear." Quote. Naruto looked at the two paths. "Then I won't choose either." The first Naruto's expression changed. "What?" Naruto smiled. "I've learned something. Sometimes the answer isn't choosing between two options." Quote. "Sometimes you create a third." The golden leaf appeared. The first Naruto stared at it. For the first time, he looked afraid. "No." Naruto raised his hand. "You said choices created reality." Quote. "Then I'll create a choice that has never existed." The golden light exploded. The entire first universe began shaking. And somewhere beyond time itself, a new reality was born. The third choice. The first universe shook violently. The two paths of light and darkness began collapsing into each other. Naruto stood in the center. The golden leaf floated above his hand. The first Naruto stared at him. You don't understand what you're doing. Naruto looked at him. Maybe not, but I know what I don't want. The first Naruto stepped forward. If you create a third choice here, you won't just change one reality. Quote, you'll change the meaning of choice itself. Naruto smiled. Then maybe it needs to change. Minato moved beside him. Naruto. Naruto looked at his father. I'm not going to choose between a world without pain and a world full of pain. Quote, Minato nodded. Then what will you choose? Naruto looked at the endless darkness. A world where people can choose how they face pain. The golden leaf began glowing brighter. Sasuke understood. He's not creating another reality. Naruto looked at him. Then what am I doing? Sasuke answered. You're giving every reality the ability to change itself. The first Naruto shook his head. That cannot exist. Quote, Naruto raised his hand. Why? Because every choice needs a consequence. Naruto smiled. Then let people decide their own consequences. The golden leaf released a massive wave of light. Every reality connected to the first universe. Konoha, the merged world, the forgotten world, the worlds of alternate Narutos, the worlds of alternate Minatos. All of them received the same light. But nothing disappeared. No world was erased. No person was replaced. Instead, every reality gained a new path. A path that had never existed before. Aion watched silently. The blind Naruto stood beside him. What did he do? Aion smiled. He changed the rules. The first Naruto looked at the growing light. No. His body began disappearing. Naruto looked at him. Are you okay? The first Naruto smiled. For the first time, I think I am. Why? Because someone finally succeeded where I failed. Naruto stepped closer. What did I succeed at? Understanding that a perfect world isn't a world without pain. The first Naruto looked toward Minato. It's a world where people aren't alone when pain comes. Minato smiled. Naruto held out his hand. The first Naruto took it. The moment their hands touched, the first Naruto transformed into golden light. That light entered Naruto's body. Naruto suddenly saw everything. Every world, every choice, every possibility, every life. He could see the beginning. He could see the end. But he could also see something else. A future that hadn't been created yet. Naruto opened his eyes. His pupils were glowing gold. Sasuke stepped back. Naruto. Naruto looked at his hands. I can feel them. Everyone. Kai stared at the golden leaf. It's no longer just a leaf. What is it? Kai smiled. It's a bridge. Suddenly, the first universe became peaceful. The golden light disappeared. The darkness became a normal sky. For the first time. The first universe had a sunrise. Naruto looked at it. It's beautiful. Minato stood beside him. You earned it. Naruto laughed. We all did. Aion stepped forward. It is time to return. Naruto looked at him. Will everything stay connected? Aion nodded. Yes. But remember, connection doesn't mean control. Naruto nodded. I understand. The blind Naruto smiled. Then let's go home. Quote, Sasuke opened a portal. Everyone stepped toward it. But before Naruto entered, he heard a voice. Naruto. He turned around. The first universe was empty. Nobody was there. Yet the voice continued. You created the third choice. Naruto looked around. What is it? The voice answered. Hope. Naruto smiled. Then he stepped through the portal. They returned to the center of all realities. The world tree was glowing. Every branch was alive. Every reality had stabilized. The timeline clock had completely disappeared. Kai looked at Naruto. It's over. Naruto looked around. No. Sasuke frowned. What? Naruto smiled. It's not over. It's just beginning. Suddenly, a small golden crack appeared in the sky. Everyone looked upward. Minato reached for his kunai. Naruto raised his hand. Wait. The crack opened. A familiar voice came from inside. Naruto. Naruto's eyes widened. Kushina. A woman stepped through the portal. Red hair, blue eyes, and a smile Naruto had only seen in memories. Minato froze. Kushina. Naruto couldn't move. His eyes filled with tears. Mom. Kushina smiled. Hello, Naruto. And for the first time in his life, Naruto finally met his mother. The mother he never met. Naruto couldn't move. He simply stared at Kushina. The woman he had only known through stories, memories, and old photographs was standing right in front of him. Mom. Kushina smiled through tears. Yes, Naruto. Naruto suddenly ran toward her. Kushina opened her arms. He hugged her tightly. For several seconds, neither of them said anything. Minato stood a few steps away. His eyes were filled with tears. Kushina. She looked at him. You're still as emotional as ever, Minato. Minato laughed softly. I thought I would never see you again. Kushina smiled. Neither did I. Naruto finally pulled away. But how? Kushina looked toward the world tree. I don't completely understand it. She touched the golden leaf. But when Naruto created the third choice, some possibilities that had been lost were given another chance. Quote, Sasuke looked at the world tree. So she's not from another reality. Kushina shook her head. I'm from a possibility that was never allowed to continue. Naruto looked confused. Then you're not really my mother. Quote, Kushina placed her hand on his cheek. I may come from a different possibility. But I'm still Kushina. Naruto smiled. That's enough for me. Suddenly, the world tree began glowing again. Kai looked worried. Something is happening. Sasuke activated his Rinnegan. Another reality is approaching. Minato stepped in front of Kushina. Stay behind me. Kushina grabbed his shoulder. Don't start acting like the fourth Hokage again. Quote, Minato smiled. I can't help it. Naruto laughed. Then the sky cracked. A massive portal appeared. But this time, no enemy came through. A village appeared inside the portal. Naruto recognized it immediately. Konoha. But it wasn't their Konoha. It was a Konoha where everything was peaceful. No war, no destroyed buildings, no graves. Everyone was alive. Sasuke stared at it. This is a perfect reality. Quote, Kushina shook her head. No. Naruto looked at her. Why? Because perfection always hides something. Suddenly, the peaceful village began changing. The sky turned gray. The people stopped moving. Their smiles disappeared. One by one, they turned toward Naruto. Their eyes became completely white. A voice echoed from the village. Why did you change our world? Naruto stepped forward. I didn't. Quote, the voice answered. You gave us freedom. We were happy before. Naruto became silent. Kushina looked at him. Naruto. He nodded. I know. The people began walking toward the portal. Sasuke prepared his sword. Enemies. Naruto shook his head. No, they're afraid. The crowd stopped. One little girl stepped forward. Why did you give us pain? Naruto knelt. Because I didn't give you pain. I gave you a choice. Quote, the girl looked confused. What if we don't want it? Naruto smiled. Then you can choose that too. The girl looked at the others. Slowly, her white eyes returned to normal. Then another person changed. Then another. The entire village began waking up. The gray sky disappeared. The people started making their own choices. Some stayed. Some left. Some laughed. Some cried. But they were free. Kushina smiled. That's what you created. Naruto looked at the village. A world that can choose. Suddenly, a loud sound came from the world tree. Crack. A branch broke. Everyone looked up. Kai's face became pale. No. Minato asked. What happened? Kai pointed toward the highest branch. The connection between realities is becoming unstable. Sasuke looked at the broken branch. Why? Kai looked at Naruto. Because there are too many possibilities now. Naruto frowned. So the third choice created another problem. Kushina nodded. Every gift has a price. The broken branch began falling. If it hit the world tree. Thousands of realities would collapse. Naruto stepped forward. I'll stop it. Minato grabbed his shoulder. You're not doing this alone. Sasuke stood beside him. Neither are we. Kushina smiled. Family. Naruto smiled back. Family. All of them raised their hands. Golden light surrounded the broken branch. But suddenly, a dark hand appeared from behind it. It grabbed the branch. Everyone froze. A voice whispered, you should have left the dead alone. Naruto's eyes widened. The darkness pulled the branch away. And from inside the broken reality, a familiar figure emerged. Naruto stared at him. It was Jiraiya, but his eyes were completely black. And he was holding a strange black scroll. Naruto whispered, Sensei. Jiraiya smiled. Hello, Naruto. Did you really think the dead would stay dead? Quote, the dead who returned. Naruto stared at Jiraiya. His mind refused to accept what he was seeing. Sensei. Jiraiya smiled. Long time no see, kid. Naruto took a step forward. But you're dead. Quote, Jiraiya's smile disappeared. I know. Sasuke immediately raised his sword. Naruto, Don't get close. Jiraiya looked at Sasuke, still suspicious. Sasuke narrowed his eyes. You're not the Jiraiya we knew. Quote. Jiraiya laughed. Smart kid. Naruto's expression became serious. Then who are you? Jiraiya looked at the black scroll in his hand. I'm the Jiraiya who survived. Naruto froze. Survived what? Quote. The war, the pain, the death of my students, the destruction of my village. Naruto looked at him. Then why are your eyes like that? Jiraiya touched his face. The black scroll. It contains the memories of every dead person across the realities. Quote. Kushina stepped forward. That's impossible. Jiraiya looked at her. Not anymore. He opened the scroll. Thousands of names appeared. Naruto saw familiar names. Jiraiya, Neji, Itachi, Obito, Minato, Kushina, and countless others. Naruto's eyes widened. You collected all of them. Jiraiya nodded. Every person who died. Every person who was forgotten. Every person whose story ended. Quote. I brought them back. Minato looked at the scroll. But why? Jiraiya's expression became cold. Because Naruto gave reality a third choice. He created a world where nobody had to disappear. Naruto shook his head. That's not what I meant. I know. Jiraiya smiled sadly. But reality doesn't understand intentions. It only understands choices. The black scroll began glowing. Suddenly, figures began appearing behind Jiraiya. Naruto recognized one of them. Neji. Then Itachi. Then Obito. Then many others. Naruto's eyes filled with tears. Neji. Neji looked at him. Naruto. Sasuke stared at Itachi. Itachi. Itachi smiled. You've changed. Sasuke couldn't speak. Kushina looked at the people who had returned. This isn't resurrection. Jiraiya nodded. No, it's something different. Kai looked at the golden leaf. They're copies. Jiraiya's expression changed. Copies. Kai continued. They are memories given bodies. Naruto looked at Jiraiya. Then they're not really alive. Jiraiya shook his head. Does it matter? Quote. Naruto became silent. Jiraiya stepped closer. They can think. They can feel. They remember everything. So why shouldn't they live? Naruto looked at Neji. Neji smiled. I don't know if I'm truly alive. Quote. But I know I don't want to hurt anyone. Naruto looked at Jiraiya. Then why are you attacking the world tree? Jiraiya looked toward the broken branch. Because the world tree decides who gets to exist. Quote. I want to destroy it. Sasuke immediately stepped forward. If you destroy it, every reality collapses. Jiraiya nodded. I know. Naruto stared at him. Then everyone dies. Jiraiya answered. Not everyone. The dead will remain. Naruto shook his head. That's not a solution. Jiraiya looked at him. Then give me one. Naruto became silent. Jiraiya continued. You created freedom. Now prove that your freedom includes us. Naruto looked around. At Neji. At Itachi. At the others. Then he looked at Minato and Kushina. He understood the problem. If he destroyed the world tree. The living would die. If he protected it, the returned dead would disappear. There was no easy answer. Naruto closed his eyes. Then he remembered the first universe. The third choice. He opened his eyes. I won't choose. Jiraiya frowned. Then what will you do? Naruto stepped toward the black scroll. I'll create another choice. Jiraiya stared at him. Another one. Naruto nodded. A world where the dead don't need to become alive. Quote. And the living don't need to lose them. The golden leaf appeared. But this time, it wasn't golden. It was completely transparent. Kai stared at it. The memory leaf. Naruto looked at him. What is it? A bridge between memory and reality. Naruto smiled. Then let's use it. He reached toward Jiraiya. Jiraiya hesitated. Then he handed him the black scroll. The moment Naruto touched it. Every memory inside the scroll exploded into light. The returned dead began glowing. Neji smiled. Itachi closed his eyes. Jiraiya looked at Naruto. Don't erase us. Naruto shook his head. I won't. Quote. I'm giving you something better. The light spread across the world tree. The dead began turning into stars. Not disappearing. Not becoming alive. Becoming memories that could never be lost. Naruto looked at Neji. I'll remember you. Neji smiled. That's all I ever wanted. Itachi looked at Sasuke. Take care of yourself. Sasuke lowered his head. I will. Jiraiya looked at Naruto. You finally became a great shinobi. Quote. Naruto smiled through his tears. Thanks, pervy sage. Jiraiya laughed. That name again. His body slowly turned into light. One by one, the dead became stars. The black scroll disappeared. The broken branch of the world tree began healing. But just before Jiraiya disappeared completely, he looked at Naruto. There's one memory you haven't seen. Naruto froze. What memory? Jiraiya smiled. The memory of the person who started all of this. Quote, the stars suddenly formed a massive image. Naruto looked up, and the face appearing in the sky was his own. The memory of Naruto. The entire world tree went silent. Thousands of stars gathered above Naruto. Slowly, they formed a single image. Naruto stared at the face in the sky. It was him, but older, much older. The older Naruto was standing in front of the world tree. Behind him were countless destroyed realities. Naruto whispered, "That's me." Sasuke looked at the image. No. Naruto turned. What? Sasuke narrowed his eyes. That's not a future version of you. It's a memory. Naruto looked back at the image. The older Naruto raised his hand. A golden leaf appeared in his palm. Then he spoke. If you're seeing this, it means you've reached the end of the first cycle. Naruto's eyes widened. The first cycle. Quote, the memory continued. I know you'll have questions. Why did Minato survive? Why did the golden leaf appear? Why did the realities merge? And why did I create the third choice? Naruto stepped closer. The older Naruto looked directly toward him. Because I already lived this story. Naruto froze. What? Minato stared at the memory. The older Naruto continued. I failed the first time. I failed the second time. Quote, I failed more times than I can remember. Every time I tried to save everyone, I created another disaster. Naruto clenched his fists. Then how did you keep trying? The older Naruto smiled. Because I remembered you. Naruto's eyes widened. Me, yes. The Naruto who still believed there was another answer. The memory showed Naruto as a child. Then Minato holding him. Then Naruto growing up. Then the Nine Tails. Then Sasuke. Then Sakura. Then all the people Naruto had met during his journey. The older Naruto watched them all. Every time I lost hope, I remembered the boy who refused to give up. Quote, Naruto's eyes filled with tears. The memory suddenly changed. The older Naruto was standing before Aion. Aion looked at him. You cannot change the first choice. The older Naruto answered. Then I'll change what comes after it. Quote, Aion smiled. That will create a paradox. I know. And the paradox could destroy everything. I know. Then why did it? The older Naruto looked toward the world tree. Because if I don't. Quote, no one gets a choice. The memory ended. The stars returned to their normal positions. Naruto stood silently. Minato placed a hand on his shoulder. Your future self started this. Naruto nodded. But he didn't finish it. Sasuke looked at him. Because he needed you. Naruto frowned. Why me? Sasuke answered. Because you're the version of Naruto who still has everything. Naruto looked at Minato. His father was alive. Kushina was alive. Sasuke was beside him. His friends were safe. He understood. This entire journey wasn't about saving the multiverse. Minato smiled. It was about giving you the chance to become the Naruto who could save it. Quote, suddenly, Aion appeared. But this time, he looked different. He was no longer calm. He looked worried. Naruto turned toward him. What happened? Aion looked at the world tree. The cycle has been broken. Quote, Naruto frowned. Isn't that good? Aion shook his head. No, the cycle was protecting reality. Sasuke stepped forward. Protecting it from what? Aion looked toward the darkness. The final enemy. Quote, the world tree suddenly began shaking. Every star went dark. The branches turned completely black. Kushina stepped beside Minato. What's happening? Aion answered. The one thing that existed before the first choice. Quote, Naruto raised his kunai. What is it? Aion looked directly at him. The zero. Naruto frowned. The zero. Aion nodded. Before there was existence, there was nothing. Before there was choice. Quote, there was silence. Before there was light, there was the zero. The darkness above them began forming a massive shape. No face. No body. Only two enormous white eyes. The voice that followed was unlike anything Naruto had ever heard. You have created too many possibilities. Naruto stepped forward. Who are you? The zero answered. I am what existed before your first breath. Naruto's expression hardened. Then you're going to have to get used to me. Quote, the zero stared at him. Why? Naruto smiled. Because I'm not finished choosing. The golden leaf appeared in his hand. The world tree began glowing again. Minato raised his kunai. Sasuke activated his Rinnegan. Kushina formed a seal. And every reality connected to the world tree began preparing for battle. The Zero opened its eyes wider. Then let the final choice begin. The entire multiverse went dark. And Naruto stepped into the darkness. The battle against the Zero. Naruto stepped into the darkness. The moment he crossed the boundary, everything disappeared. Minato, Sasuke, Kushina, the world tree, even the countless realities. Naruto was completely alone. He looked around. Where am I? The Zero's voice echoed from every direction. Between existence and nothing, Naruto tightened his grip on the golden leaf. Then I'll find my way out. The Zero laughed. You still believe every problem has an answer. Naruto smiled. Usually. The darkness suddenly changed. Naruto saw Konoha, but it was empty. No people, no buildings, no Hokage monument, only silence. Then he saw Minato. His father was standing alone. Naruto rushed toward him. Dad. Minato didn't respond. Naruto stopped. Something was wrong. Minato slowly looked up. You failed. Naruto's expression changed. No, you couldn't save everyone. I saved many, but not everyone. Naruto clenched his fist. I know. Minato disappeared. The scene changed. Naruto saw Sasuke. Sasuke stood in the middle of a destroyed village. You chose wrong. Naruto shook his head. I made the best choice I could. Sasuke disappeared. Then Naruto saw Sakura. Then Kakashi. Then Jiraiya. Then Neji. Every person he had ever lost appeared before him. Each one said the same thing. You failed. Naruto closed his eyes. The Zero's voice echoed. Pain. Loss. Quote. Regret. These are the things that create choices. Naruto opened his eyes. I know. The Zero asked. Then why do you keep fighting them? Naruto smiled. I'm not. The darkness became silent. Naruto continued. I'm accepting them. The illusions began cracking. I lost people. I made mistakes. I couldn't save everyone. But those things don't decide who I am. The golden leaf began glowing. I decide that. The illusions shattered. The darkness disappeared. Naruto found himself standing before the Zero. It was enormous. Two white eyes stared down at him. The Zero spoke. You cannot defeat nothing. Quote. Naruto answered. I don't need to. The Zero became silent. Naruto raised the golden leaf. I just need to give nothing a reason to become something. The golden leaf released a wave of light. For the first time, the Zero moved backward. What are you doing? Naruto smiled. Making another choice. The Zero attacked. A wave of pure darkness rushed toward Naruto. Naruto raised his hand. The golden leaf created a barrier. The impact sent Naruto flying. He crashed into the darkness. Naruto. Minato's voice echoed. Naruto looked up. His father was standing behind him. Sasuke was beside Minato. Kushina stood behind them. Naruto's eyes widened. How did you get here? Minato smiled. You aren't the only one who can make choices. Sasuke raised his sword. We followed you. Kushina smiled. Family doesn't let family fight alone. Naruto stood up. The Zero stared at them. You cannot exist here. Minato answered. Then reality will have to change. Sasuke opened his Rinnegan. Naruto. Quote. Now. Naruto nodded. The three of them attacked simultaneously. Minato teleported around the Zero. Sasuke opened dimensional portals. Naruto created hundreds of shadow clones. Rasengan after Rasengan struck the darkness. But nothing happened. The Zero didn't even move. It absorbed every attack. Naruto landed beside Sasuke. That didn't work. Sasuke looked at the Zero. Because we're attacking it like an enemy. Minato understood. Then what is it? Sasuke answered. An absence. Naruto looked at him. So we can't destroy it? No. Then how do we stop it? Sasuke looked at the golden leaf. Give it something to exist for. Quote. Naruto looked at the Zero. He slowly lowered his weapon. The Zero watched him. What are you doing? Naruto stepped forward. I'm not going to fight you. The Zero remained silent. Naruto continued. You existed before anyone. You never had a world. You never had friends. You never had a family. The Zero's eyes narrowed. Naruto held out his hand. So I'll give you a choice. The Zero asked. What choice? Naruto smiled. Exist. For the first time, the Zero became silent. A tiny golden light appeared inside the darkness. Then another. The endless darkness began changing. The Zero's enormous body started shrinking. The white eyes became smaller. A human shape appeared. A small child stood in front of Naruto. The child looked confused. Who am I? Naruto knelt. You can decide. The child looked at him. Decide what? Quote. Naruto smiled. What you want to become. The child looked toward Minato. Then Sasuke. Then Kushina. Finally, he looked at Naruto. Can I become your friend? Naruto smiled. Of course. The darkness disappeared. The world tree returned. Every reality became visible again. Aion watched from the branches. The Zero had become a child. The final enemy was no longer an enemy. But suddenly, the world tree began glowing brighter than ever. Aion looked shocked. The cycle is complete. Naruto turned toward him. What does that mean? Aion smiled. It means the multiverse has finally learned how to create without destroying. Naruto looked at the child beside him. The child smiled. And for the first time, the Zero had a name. Naruto looked at him. What should we call you? The child thought for a moment. Then he smiled. Hope. Naruto laughed. Perfect. Quote. But far beyond the world tree, a single unknown star began glowing. And from inside it, someone whispered Naruto's name. The unknown star. Naruto looked toward the distant star. Did you hear that? Quote. Sasuke nodded. Yes. Minato looked at the world tree. Something is still out there. Aion's expression became serious. The Zero was not the final threat. Naruto frowned. You said the cycle was complete. Quote. It was. Then what is that? Aion looked at the glowing star. I don't know. The star became brighter. A crack appeared across its surface. Then a voice echoed through every reality. Naruto Uzumaki. Quote. Naruto stepped forward. Who are you? The voice answered. I am the one who remembers. Sasuke activated his Rinnegan. Remembers what? Everything. The star opened. A massive figure emerged. It wore a white cloak covered with strange symbols. Its face was hidden, but unlike the other enemies, its presence felt strangely familiar. Naruto raised his kunai. Show your face. The figure slowly removed its hood. Naruto froze. Minato's eyes widened. Kushina covered her mouth. Sasuke stared in disbelief. The figure looked exactly like Naruto. But there was one difference. He had a scar across his face. Naruto whispered, another me. The stranger shook his head. No, I'm the Naruto who remembers every timeline. Naruto frowned. Every timeline. The stranger nodded. Every world that existed. Every world that was destroyed. Quote. Every choice. Every failure. Every version of you. Naruto stepped closer. Then why have you been hiding? The stranger answered. Because I was waiting for you to finish. Finish what? Quote. Your journey. Naruto looked at the world tree. It's already over. The stranger smiled. No, you've only finished the first part. Sasuke raised his sword. What is the second part? The stranger pointed toward the world tree. Now you must decide what happens to the future. Naruto frowned. Isn't that everyone's choice? Yes. Then why do you care? The stranger looked directly at Naruto. Because I know what happens if you don't. Quote. The world tree suddenly began showing images. Naruto saw the future. Konoha. Peaceful. Children playing. Minato is Hokage. Kushina laughing. Sasuke standing beside Naruto. Everything looked perfect. Then the image changed. The world tree began dying. Reality after reality disappeared. The same darkness returned. Naruto looked horrified. What causes that? The stranger answered. Time. Naruto frowned. Time. Every reality has a beginning. And every reality has an end. Naruto looked at Aion. Can't you stop it? Aion shook his head. No, even I cannot control time. The stranger stepped forward. But you can. Naruto stared at him. Me. You have connected every reality. You gave every world freedom. You created the third choice. You even gave the Zero a future. The stranger smiled. That makes you something the multiverse has never had before. Naruto asked. What? A choice that exists outside time. Silence filled the world tree. Naruto looked at his hands. What am I supposed to do? Quote. The stranger answered. Choose whether the multiverse should have an ending. Naruto's expression changed. So I have to decide if everything eventually dies. Yes. Naruto shook his head. That's not my decision. Quote. The stranger smiled. Exactly. Naruto looked around. At Minato. At Kushina. At Sasuke. At Sakura. At Kakashi. At hope. Then at the countless realities. Naruto smiled. I know what to do. The stranger raised an eyebrow. What? Naruto turned toward every reality. Everyone gets to choose. The stranger stared at him. Even if they choose differently. Yes. Even if some choose to end. Quote. Yes. Even if some choose to continue forever. Yes. Naruto raised the golden leaf. Because that's what freedom means. The world tree began glowing. Every reality received a choice. Not one future. Not one ending. Infinite futures. Every world could decide its own path. The stranger smiled. You finally understand. Naruto looked at him. Who are you really? The stranger's body began turning into light. I am the memory of who you could have become. Naruto stared. Then why did you come? The stranger smiled. To make sure you never become me. He disappeared. The world tree became brighter than ever. Aion looked at Naruto. Your journey is complete. Naruto shook his head. No. He smiled. Now everyone gets to begin theirs. Minato laughed. That's my son. Kushina hugged Naruto. I'm proud of you. Quote. Sasuke smiled slightly. Not bad. Naruto laughed. Not bad. Sasuke nodded. Don't let it go to your head. Everyone laughed. For the first time, there was no enemy, no prophecy, no countdown, no impossible choice, only countless worlds, and countless futures. But deep inside one distant reality, a small child opened his eyes. He looked toward the sky and whispered, Naruto, the story was not over. The child beyond time, far away from the world tree, in a reality that had never been connected to the others, a small child stood alone beneath a dark sky. He looked around. There was no village, no people, no sound, only an enormous moon hanging above him. The child touched his chest. Something was glowing inside, a tiny golden mark. He whispered, Naruto. Suddenly, the ground beneath him cracked. A voice came from the darkness. You remember him. The child turned. Who are you? A tall figure stepped out of the shadows. Unlike Aion or the Zero, this figure had no strange energy, no powerful chakra, no special eyes. He simply looked like an ordinary man. But his shadow was enormous. The child stepped backward. Stay away. The man smiled. I didn't come to hurt you. Then why are you here? Because you are the last piece. The child looked confused. Last piece of what? The man pointed toward the sky. The stars began disappearing one by one. The original reality. The child's golden mark became brighter. But Naruto fixed everything. The man shook his head. He fixed the worlds that existed. You are from the world that was erased before Naruto's story began. The child looked shocked. Then why am I still here? Quote. The man smiled. Because someone protected you. Who? The man didn't answer. Instead, he opened his hand. A small golden leaf appeared. The child stared at it. It's the same as Naruto's. The man nodded. Not the same. This is the first one. The child's eyes widened. The first golden leaf. Yes. The man placed it in the child's hand. The moment the child touched it, the entire sky changed. He saw everything. The first universe. Aion. The Zero. The world tree. Naruto. Minato. Kushina. Sasuke. Every reality. But then he saw something else. A massive door standing outside time. The door was completely black. The child whispered, what is that? The man answered, the place where abandoned possibilities go. Why is it opening? Because Naruto gave every reality freedom. The child looked confused. Isn't that good? Quote, it is. Then what's wrong? The man smiled sadly. When you give everything freedom, even the impossible becomes possible. The black door began opening. A deep sound echoed across the universe. The child dropped the golden leaf. What is behind it? The man looked at the door. The possibilities Naruto never chose. The child stepped backward. Are they dangerous? The man nodded. Some are. Quote, some are not. But one of them should never be allowed to escape. Suddenly, a hand appeared through the black door. The child screamed. The man immediately created a barrier. The hand struck it. Boom. The entire reality shook. The man struggled to hold the barrier. Run. The child didn't move. Where? To Naruto. But I don't know where he is. The man smiled. You do. The golden mark on the child's chest began glowing. A portal opened. On the other side, Naruto was standing with Minato and Kushina. The child stared through the portal. Naruto. Naruto suddenly turned. He could hear the voice. Who's there? The portal became brighter. Naruto saw the child. His expression changed. Who are you? The child answered. I don't know, but I think. I was waiting for you. Naruto stepped toward the portal. Minato grabbed his shoulder. Naruto, wait. Naruto looked at him. Dad, he's scared. Minato looked at the child. Something about him felt familiar. Kushina stepped forward. I can feel it too. Naruto reached toward the portal. The child reached back. Their hands almost touched. Then, the black door behind the child exploded open. A massive shadow emerged. The stranger who had been protecting the child shouted. Naruto. Naruto looked up. Get him out. The stranger shouted. That's exactly what I'm trying to do. The shadow opened two enormous eyes. It looked directly at Naruto. And then it spoke. I finally found you. Quote. Naruto's smile disappeared. Who are you? The shadow answered. I am the Naruto who was never allowed to exist. Naruto froze. Minato immediately prepared to fight. Sasuke appeared beside them. Another Naruto. The shadow laughed. No, I am every Naruto that was erased. The world tree suddenly shook. Every reality felt the presence. Aion looked toward the darkness. His expression became terrified. No, the Zero stepped beside him. What is it? Aion whispered. The Unchosen. The shadow began stepping through the door. And now, we want our worlds back. The Unchosen. The shadow stepped completely out of the black door. The moment it appeared, every reality went silent. The world tree stopped moving. Even Aion couldn't speak. Naruto stared at the figure. It looked like him, but its body was made from countless shadows. Hundreds of different faces appeared across it. Some were angry, some were sad, some were smiling. Every face was a different Naruto that had never been allowed to exist. Naruto whispered, so many. Quote. The Unchosen answered, we are all you. Naruto tightened his grip on the golden leaf. Then why are you attacking everyone? The Unchosen laughed. Attacking. We are taking back what was stolen. Quote. Naruto shook his head. Nobody stole anything from you. The Unchosen's eyes became red. Your existence did. Naruto froze. The Unchosen continued. Every time you chose one future, thousands of others disappeared. Quote. Every time you saved someone, another possibility was erased. Every time you said, this is my choice, you rejected ours. Naruto lowered his weapon. I never knew. Exactly. The child stepped forward. Then why are you angry with me? The Unchosen looked at him. You are the last possibility. The child trembled. If I disappear, we can return. Naruto immediately stepped between them. No. Quote. The Unchosen smiled. You always protect everyone. That's your weakness. Naruto answered. No, that's my choice. The Unchosen raised his hand. Thousands of black portals opened around the world tree. From each portal emerged another Naruto. Different clothes, different powers, different personalities. Some were Hokage, some were rogue ninja, some had lost their villages. Some had never met Sasuke. Some had never known Minato. And some had never known love. Sasuke looked around. There are too many. Minato stepped forward. Then we don't fight them. Naruto looked at him. What? Minato smiled. We talk. The Unchosen laughed. You think words can change us? Minato answered. Maybe. But your anger proves something. The Unchosen narrowed his eyes. What? You still care? Silence. Minato continued. If you truly wanted nothing, you wouldn't have come here. You came because you wanted to be seen. The Unchosen's expression changed. Naruto looked at the countless versions. I see you. One alternate Naruto stepped forward. Do you? Naruto nodded. You lost everything. Another stepped forward. You don't know what that feels like. Naruto looked at Minato. I know what losing someone feels like. Quote. The alternate Naruto shook his head. You had your father. Naruto became silent. Then he answered. Yes, and I know how lucky I am. The alternate Naruto looked down. Naruto continued. But I won't apologize for surviving. Quote. I won't apologize for loving my family. And I won't apologize for wanting everyone to have a future. The Unchosen stared at him. Then give us one. Naruto looked at the world tree. I will. Quote. Sasuke frowned. How? Naruto raised the golden leaf. The world tree doesn't need to choose which reality exists. It can support all of them. Aion looked shocked. That would require infinite space. Quote. Naruto smiled. Then we'll create infinite space. The golden leaf began glowing. The child stepped forward. I can help. Naruto looked at him. You don't have to. The child smiled. I want to. Quote. The first golden leaf appeared in his hand. Naruto's eyes widened. That's the original. The child nodded. Maybe it was waiting for me. Naruto and the child raised their hands together. Two golden leaves appeared. One represented the worlds that existed. The other represented the worlds that were never chosen. The leaves connected. The world tree began expanding. Branches stretched into the darkness. Thousands became millions. Millions became countless. Every unchosen Naruto received a branch. A place to exist. A world of their own. The unchosen stared in disbelief. We have our own worlds. Naruto nodded. You don't have to replace us. Quote. You can become yourselves. One by one, the shadows began changing. The darkness disappeared from their bodies. They became individuals. No longer copies. No longer rejected possibilities. They were their own people. The unchosen looked at Naruto. You really did it. Naruto smiled. Not alone. The unchosen lowered his head. Thank you. But suddenly, the black door behind them began shaking. Everyone turned. Sasuke's expression became serious. Something is still inside. Aion looked terrified. No. Naruto asked. What is it? Aion whispered. The unchosen were not the only things trapped there. The black door opened wider. A cold wind spread across every reality. Then a voice came from inside. You freed them. Now, you have freed me. Naruto's smile disappeared. A massive eye opened inside the darkness. And the voice continued. I am the possibility that even Naruto could never choose. The world tree began turning black again. Minato raised his kunai. Sasuke activated his Rinnegan. Naruto looked at the darkness. Then I guess. Quote. We have one more choice to make. The impossible possibility. The enormous eye inside the black door opened completely. Every reality trembled. Naruto stood in front of the world tree. Who are you? Quote. The voice answered. I am the possibility that exists beyond every choice. Sasuke narrowed his eyes. Beyond every choice. The voice laughed. You choose life. I choose death. You choose hope. Quote. I choose despair. You choose connection. I choose isolation. Naruto clenched his fist. So you're the opposite of every choice. No. The eye moved closer. I am the choice that cannot be made. Quote. Aion's expression became pale. That's impossible. The entity laughed. Exactly. The black door exploded. A massive figure stepped through. It had no face. No body. Only a constantly changing form. For 1 second it looked like Naruto. Then Minato. Then Sasuke. Then Kushina. Then something completely unknown. Naruto stared at it. It keeps changing. Aion nodded. Because it has no fixed identity. Quote. Sakura asked. How do we fight something like that? Aion answered. You can't. Naruto looked at him. There's always a way. Aion shook his head. Not this time. The entity raised its hand. Suddenly, Naruto disappeared. He found himself standing alone in Konoha. Everything looked normal. The streets were full of people. Minato was Hokage. Kushina was beside him. Sasuke and Sakura were arguing nearby. Naruto smiled. This is my world. A voice whispered. Is it? Naruto turned. Nobody was there. Then he heard another voice. Choose. Naruto frowned. Choose what? You can stay here. The voice continued. Your family. Your friends. Your peaceful village. No more battles. No more enemies. No more pain. Naruto looked around. Everything was perfect. Too perfect. He walked toward Minato. Dad. Minato smiled. I'm proud of you. Naruto stopped. Something felt wrong. He looked at Kushina. Mom. She smiled. We're always going to be together. Naruto's eyes became serious. No. Quote. The illusion froze. Minato stopped moving. Kushina stopped smiling. Sasuke stopped breathing. Naruto whispered. This isn't real. The voice answered. Then choose reality. The perfect Konoha disappeared. Naruto returned to the darkness. The entity stood before him. You rejected paradise. Naruto answered. Because paradise without choice isn't paradise. The entity became silent. Naruto raised his hand. I've learned something. What? Even if I could have everything, I would still choose a world where people can choose for themselves. The entity attacked. A wave of darkness struck Naruto. Minato teleported in front of him. Naruto. He blocked the attack. Sasuke opened a portal. Move. Naruto jumped through. Sasuke appeared beside him. We need a plan. Naruto nodded. The child named Hope stepped forward. I think I know what it wants. Everyone looked at him. It wants Naruto to make one final choice. Naruto frowned. What choice? Hope answered. Whether to remain Naruto, or become the thing that controls every possibility. Quote. Silence filled the battlefield. Aion looked at Naruto. If you accept that power, you could control the entire multiverse. Naruto asked. And if I refuse? The possibilities remain free. Naruto smiled. Then the answer is obvious. The entity appeared behind him. You refuse power. Naruto turned. I refuse control. The entity stopped. Why? Naruto answered. Because I've spent this entire journey learning one thing. Quote. Nobody should decide another person's future. The golden leaf appeared. But this time, it didn't glow. It simply floated. Naruto released it. The leaf drifted toward the entity. The entity stared at it. What is this? Naruto smiled. A choice. You can take it, or leave it. You can become something, or remain nothing. For the first time, you decide. The entity stared at the golden leaf. Nobody moved. The entire multiverse waited. Then, the entity reached toward it. Its hand stopped. For the first time, it hesitated. Aion whispered. It's learning. Sasuke nodded. Naruto isn't defeating it. Quote. He's teaching it how to choose. The entity finally touched the golden leaf. A massive explosion of light filled the darkness. The black door shattered. The entity screamed. Its form began changing. The endless darkness disappeared. A small child appeared. He looked around. Confused. Scared. Naruto knelt beside him. What is your name? The child looked at him. I don't have one. Naruto smiled. Then choose one. The child thought for a moment. Then he smiled. Maybe. Freedom. Naruto laughed. That's a good name. The world tree began glowing again. The black corruption disappeared. Aion looked toward the sky. It's over. But suddenly, the golden leaf cracked. Naruto's smile disappeared. Sasuke looked at it. Why is it breaking? Aion's expression became serious. Because something has changed. Quote. Naruto stared at the cracked leaf. What? Aion looked at him. Naruto, you are no longer part of the timeline. Naruto froze. What? Aion continued. Every reality now has a future. Except you. Quote. Naruto looked at Minato. His father was still there. Kushina was still there. Sasuke was still there. Everyone was safe. But suddenly, nobody could remember Naruto. Minato looked around. Who are you? Quote. Naruto's heart stopped. Dad. Minato stared at him. I'm sorry. I don't know you. Naruto looked at Sasuke. Sasuke. Sasuke looked confused. Have we met? Naruto stepped backward. The golden leaf shattered completely. And the final words he heard were, you saved every reality, but you erased yourself from all of them. The boy everyone forgot. Naruto stood completely still. Minato was looking at him like a stranger. Kushina didn't recognize him. Sasuke had no memory of him. Even Sakura and Kakashi looked confused. Naruto's heart sank. But, he looked at Minato. Dad, it's me. Minato frowned. My son is standing beside me. Quote. Naruto froze. He looked at the other boy. A young Naruto was standing next to Minato. Blonde hair, blue eyes, 3 whisker marks. But this Naruto was only a child. Naruto stared at him. That's. Quote. Minato placed a hand on the child's shoulder. This is Naruto. Naruto stepped backward. No. The child looked at him. Who are you? Naruto couldn't answer. He looked toward Sasuke. Sasuke was standing beside his younger self. The same person who had once become his closest friend. But now, he had never met him. Naruto whispered. So this is the price. Aion appeared behind him. You understand now. Naruto turned. You knew this would happen. Aion shook his head. I knew there would be a cost. Not what the cost would be. Naruto clenched his fists. Then fix it. Aion looked at the shattered golden leaf. I can't. Naruto's eyes widened. Why? Because the multiverse no longer needs you. Naruto stared at him. What does that mean? Aion pointed toward the world tree. Every reality has its own future now. Quote. The worlds can continue without a central connection. And you became the bridge. Naruto looked down at his hands. They were slowly becoming transparent. So I'm disappearing. Aion nodded. Not exactly. You're becoming something outside reality. Naruto looked toward his family. Then why can I still see them? Because you haven't completely left. Naruto smiled sadly. Can I stay? Quote, Aion didn't answer. Naruto understood. No. Aion shook his head. Not unless you destroy everything you created. Naruto looked at the world tree. He remembered every battle, every person he saved, every world, every choice. Then he looked at Minato. Even though his father couldn't remember him, he was alive. Kushina was alive. Sasuke was safe. Naruto smiled. Then I don't regret it. Aion looked surprised. You don't. Naruto shook his head. No, if forgetting me means they get to live, then it's worth it. Suddenly, a small voice came from behind him. Naruto. He turned. Hope was standing there. The child was crying. I remember you. Naruto smiled. That's enough. Hope hugged him. I won't forget. Naruto closed his eyes. Promise me something. What? Don't let anyone control your future. Quote. Hope nodded. I promise. Suddenly, another voice came. Naruto. He opened his eyes. Sasuke was standing nearby, but something was different. His eyes were glowing faintly. I don't remember you. Quote. Naruto's heart sank. But, Sasuke continued, I remember the feeling. Naruto stared at him. What feeling? Sasuke touched his chest. Like I lost someone important. Naruto smiled. That's enough. Quote. Sasuke looked at him. Will I ever remember? Naruto shook his head. Maybe, maybe not. But if you ever feel like you have to protect someone, do it. Sasuke smiled slightly. I probably will. Quote. Naruto laughed. Yeah. Then Minato walked toward him. Naruto looked at his father. Minato stopped in front of him. I don't know who you are. Naruto nodded. But, Minato placed his hand on Naruto's head. I feel like I should say something. Naruto's eyes filled with tears. Minato smiled. Whatever you sacrificed, I hope it was worth it. Naruto couldn't hold back his tears. It was. Minato stepped away. Naruto looked at him one last time. Dad. Minato turned. Naruto smiled. I love you. Minato didn't understand, but he smiled anyway. Thank you. Naruto closed his eyes. His body began turning into golden light. The world tree started glowing. Every reality became brighter. Naruto's memories disappeared from the worlds. But one thing remained. A feeling that somewhere, someone had once fought for them. The golden leaf reappeared, but it was no longer in anyone's hands. It floated above the world tree. Its surface carried a single symbol. The Uzumaki spiral. Aion looked at it. His story will never be completely forgotten. Quote. Hope looked up. Because I'll remember. Then the golden leaf released one final wave of light. Naruto disappeared. The multiverse continued. Konoha continued. Minato and Kushina continued their lives. Sasuke continued his journey. And somewhere beyond time, Naruto opened his eyes. He was standing alone. But this time, he wasn't sad. He looked ahead. A new path had appeared. Naruto smiled. So, where do I go now? A familiar voice answered from behind him. Home. Naruto turned. And standing there, was the Naruto he had been searching for all along. His younger self. The two Narutos looked at each other. The younger Naruto smiled. Ready. Naruto laughed. Always. Together, they stepped toward the unknown future. The two Narutos, Naruto and his younger self, walked through the endless golden path. For the first time, Naruto wasn't connected to any reality. No village, no timeline, no destiny, just silence. The younger Naruto looked at him. Are you really me? Naruto smiled. Yeah, then why are you older? Quote. Because I've been through a lot. The younger Naruto frowned. Did I become Hokage? Naruto laughed. That's a long story. Did I become strong? Very. Did I save Sasuke? Naruto smiled. Yes. Did Dad survive? Naruto stopped walking. The younger Naruto looked at him. Did he? Naruto nodded. Yes. The younger Naruto smiled. Then I'm happy. Naruto looked at him. You should be. Quote. Suddenly, the golden path split into 3 directions. The younger Naruto stared at them. Which one do we take? Naruto smiled. None. The younger Naruto looked confused. Why? Because we're not supposed to follow a path. Quote. Naruto raised his hand. We're supposed to make one. The golden leaf appeared again. But now it was different. It had 2 symbols. The Uzumaki spiral, and a small golden star. The younger Naruto touched it. What does this mean? Naruto answered. It means the future doesn't belong to one version of us. The 3 paths disappeared. A new path formed. The younger Naruto smiled. I like this one. They continued walking. Then they heard a familiar voice. Naruto. The older Naruto stopped. He knew that voice. Jiraiya. Jiraiya appeared from the golden light. But this time he wasn't a memory. He was smiling. Surprised. Quote. Naruto stared at him. You're here. Jiraiya laughed. Apparently, the younger Naruto looked excited. Are you really Jiraiya? Jiraiya looked at him. Do I know you? Naruto smiled. Not yet. Quote. Jiraiya scratched his head. Strange, but you look familiar. Naruto stepped closer. Sensei. Jiraiya smiled. I remember enough. Naruto's eyes filled with tears. Jiraiya placed a hand on his shoulder. You did well. Naruto nodded. I couldn't save everyone. Jiraiya shook his head. That's not what being a hero means. Then what does it mean? Making sure people have a chance to save themselves. Quote. Naruto smiled. That's what I tried to do. Jiraiya nodded. Then you succeeded. Suddenly, the younger Naruto pointed ahead. What's that? A massive village appeared in the distance. Naruto stared. It looked like Konoha. But something was different. The Hokage monument had dozens of faces. Some were familiar. Some were unknown. And at the center, there was a face Naruto had never seen before. Jiraiya looked at it. That's strange. Naruto stepped forward. Who is that? Jiraiya shook his head. I don't know. The village gates opened. A group of shinobi walked out. At the front was a young man wearing a white Hokage cloak. Naruto stared at him. The young man had blonde hair, blue eyes, but he wasn't Naruto. He looked at the younger Naruto, then at the older Naruto, and smiled. Finally, Naruto frowned. Finally what? Quote. The young Hokage answered. The two versions of Naruto have arrived. Naruto stepped forward. Who are you? The young Hokage smiled. I'm the Hokage of the future that you created. Naruto's expression changed. My future? No, our future. He pointed toward the village. This is the first world created after the third choice. Naruto looked around. So this is the new beginning. Suddenly, the sky darkened. The young Hokage's smile disappeared. Unfortunately, you arrived too late. Naruto looked up. A massive black crack appeared across the sky. The young Hokage whispered, the future is already being attacked. Quote. Naruto clenched his fist. By who? The crack opened. A familiar voice echoed through the village. You thought forgetting Naruto would save you. Naruto froze. The younger Naruto looked frightened. Jiraiya raised his kunai. The young Hokage prepared his chakra. The black crack widened, and a figure stepped through. It looked exactly like Naruto. But this time, it had the Rinnegan, and it was smiling. I am the Naruto who remembers everything. The older Naruto stared at him. Then you're the final version. The Rinnegan Naruto smiled. No, I'm the version that remembers. How this story ends. Quote. The Naruto who knows the ending. The Rinnegan Naruto stood above the village. His eyes glowed purple. The young Hokage immediately raised his hand. Everyone, stay back. The older Naruto stared at the stranger. You said you know how this story ends. The Rinnegan Naruto smiled. I do. Then tell me. Everyone dies. Silence filled the village. The younger Naruto stepped forward. That's not true. The Rinnegan Naruto looked at him. You still believe that? Yes. Even after everything. The younger Naruto clenched his fists. Yes. The Rinnegan Naruto laughed. That's exactly what I used to say. The older Naruto narrowed his eyes. Used to. The Rinnegan Naruto nodded. I was once like you. I believed in friendship. I believed in hope. I believed every problem had another answer. Then I saw the future. He raised his hand. The sky changed. A massive vision appeared above the village. The world tree was burning. Reality after reality was collapsing. Minato disappeared. Kushina disappeared. Sasuke disappeared. Sakura disappeared. Jiraiya disappeared. Even Hope disappeared. The younger Naruto stared in horror. No. The Rinnegan Naruto continued. I tried to stop it. I failed. I tried again. I failed again. Eventually, I learned the truth. Quote. The older Naruto asked. What truth? The Rinnegan Naruto looked directly at him. Some endings cannot be changed. Naruto shook his head. That's what you believe. No, it's what I know. The Rinnegan Naruto opened a portal. Inside it was a completely empty universe. No stars, no planets, no life, nothing. I destroyed everything. The younger Naruto stepped back. Why? Because one universe was better than infinite suffering. Quote. The older Naruto became angry. You became the thing we fought against. The Rinnegan Naruto smiled. Maybe. But I succeeded. The young Hokage stepped forward. No. The Rinnegan Naruto looked at him. You don't understand. The young Hokage activated a strange golden chakra. I understand enough. He attacked. The Rinnegan Naruto raised one hand. The attack stopped instantly. The young Hokage was thrown backward. Naruto caught him. Are you okay? The young Hokage nodded. He's too powerful. The older Naruto stepped forward. Then I'll fight him. The Rinnegan Naruto smiled. That's exactly what I wanted. Quote, Naruto activated his chakra. Golden energy surrounded him. The younger Naruto stood beside him. Jiraiya raised his kunai. The young Hokage joined them. 4 generations of shinobi stood together. The Rinnegan Naruto looked at them. 4 against 1. Naruto smiled. Sounds fair. The battle began. The Rinnegan Naruto moved instantly. Naruto blocked his first attack. Sparks filled the air. The younger Naruto attacked from behind. The Rinnegan Naruto disappeared. Jiraiya threw several explosive tags. The young Hokage created a massive golden Rasengan. Boom! The entire battlefield exploded. When the smoke disappeared, the Rinnegan Naruto was still standing. Naruto stared. He's not even hurt. The Rinnegan Naruto smiled. I told you. I know the ending. He raised his hand. A black sphere appeared. Naruto immediately recognized it. Truth-seeking orb. The orb expanded. The young Hokage shouted, "Move!" Everyone jumped away. The sphere erased everything it touched. Trees disappeared. Buildings vanished. Even the ground turned into nothing. Naruto realized the truth. He isn't trying to defeat us. Jiraiya looked at him. Then what is he doing? Naruto stared at the Rinnegan Naruto. He's trying to erase the future. Quote, the Rinnegan Naruto smiled. Exactly. He raised both hands. The entire village began disappearing. The younger Naruto shouted, "Stop!" The Rinnegan Naruto looked at him. You can't stop me. The younger Naruto ran forward. Naruto grabbed his arm. Wait, but he'll destroy everything. Naruto looked at the Rinnegan Naruto. I know. Then what do we do? Naruto smiled. We remind him who he was. Quote, the younger Naruto looked confused. How? Naruto stepped forward. By giving him something he lost. What? Hope. The golden leaf appeared again. But this time, the younger Naruto held it. Its light spread across the battlefield. The Rinnegan Naruto suddenly froze. His eyes widened. He saw memories. His first day at the academy. Iruka, Team 7, Sasuke, Sakura, Kakashi, Jiraiya, Minato, Kushina, every person who had ever believed in him. The Rinnegan Naruto fell to his knees. No, Naruto stepped toward him. You remember. The Rinnegan Naruto covered his face. I remember everything. Quote, Naruto smiled. Then you know you're wrong. The Rinnegan Naruto looked up. About what? Naruto answered. You don't know the ending. You only know one ending. The Rinnegan Naruto stared at him. Naruto continued, and if there's one thing we've learned, it's that one ending doesn't have to be the only ending. The Rinnegan Naruto slowly lowered his hands. The black sphere disappeared. The destroyed village began restoring itself. The young Hokage looked shocked. Did we win? Naruto shook his head. No. The Rinnegan Naruto stood up. We just gave him another choice. The Rinnegan Naruto looked at Naruto. Maybe I was wrong. But suddenly, a deep crack appeared in the sky. Everyone looked upward. The Rinnegan Naruto's expression changed. No, Naruto asked. What? The Rinnegan Naruto whispered. That's the ending I couldn't stop. A massive black hand emerged from the crack. The sky shattered, and a voice echoed across the future. You have changed the ending. But you forgot. I am the one who writes it. Quote, the one who writes the ending. The black hand slowly emerged from the broken sky. Every shinobi in the village froze. Even the Rinnegan Naruto looked terrified. The younger Naruto whispered, who is that? Quote, the Rinnegan Naruto answered, the author. The older Naruto frowned. Author. The Rinnegan Naruto nodded. The being that exists outside every reality. It doesn't control our choices. It controls what happens after them. Quote, the young Hokage looked upward. Then how do we fight something like that? The Rinnegan Naruto shook his head. We don't. Naruto stepped forward. Then what do we do? The Rinnegan Naruto looked at him. We make it impossible for him to write our ending. The black hand opened. A massive eye appeared inside the crack. The voice echoed across the universe. You have changed too many events. You saved Minato. Quote, you connected the realities. You created hope. You even changed the unchosen. And now, you are trying to change the ending. Naruto raised his head. Yes. The voice laughed. You cannot. Quote, Naruto smiled. Why not? Because every story needs an ending. Naruto answered. Then we'll write our own. The black eye became brighter. Your own? Yes. The author raised its hand. Suddenly, the entire village disappeared. Naruto found himself standing in complete darkness. No Minato, no Sasuke, no Jiraiya, no younger Naruto, only him. The author spoke. Now choose. Naruto looked around. Choose what? Your ending. Quote, 3 doors appeared. The first door showed Naruto becoming Hokage. The second showed Naruto living peacefully with his family. The third showed Naruto standing alone outside every reality. The author said, choose one. Naruto stared at the doors. The first looked perfect. The second looked peaceful. The third looked lonely. Naruto smiled. I refuse. The author became silent. You must choose. Naruto shook his head. No. Why? Because you've made the same mistake everyone else made. The author asked, what mistake? You think every story needs one ending. Naruto raised his hand. The golden leaf appeared. I choose all 3. The doors began merging. The author's voice became angry. Impossible. Naruto smiled. That's what everyone said before. The 3 doors shattered. Behind them appeared thousands of new doors. Every door represented a different future. Naruto stepped forward. Nobody gets to decide which future is correct. The author attacked. A massive wave of black energy rushed toward Naruto. Suddenly, Rasengan, the younger Naruto, appeared beside him. The attack was pushed back. Naruto smiled. You came. The younger Naruto grinned. Of course. Jiraiya appeared next. Did you really think I'd miss the final fight? Quote, the young Hokage appeared. You're not fighting alone. Then the Rinnegan Naruto appeared. He stood beside Naruto. I spent my entire existence believing the ending was fixed. He looked at the author. I was wrong. The author stared at them. You cannot defeat me. Naruto answered. We don't have to. The golden leaf floated upward. Every reality began sending its own light. Konoha, the forgotten world, the unchosen realities, the world tree, the first universe, even the reality of the zero. Millions of lights gathered around Naruto. The author became silent. Naruto raised his hand. This isn't my story. Quote, he looked at everyone. It's ours. Every person in every reality raised their hands. The golden leaf transformed into an enormous tree of light. The black crack began closing. The author screamed. No. Naruto shouted. Everyone. A massive wave of light exploded. The author's hand disappeared. The black eye vanished. The crack closed. Silence returned. The young Hokage looked at Naruto. Did we win? Naruto smiled. No. We chose. The Rinnegan Naruto looked at the sky. For the first time, I can't see the ending. Jiraiya laughed. Good. That means there's still a story. Quote, everyone smiled. But then, a small piece of the black crack remained. Naruto noticed it. Wait. The fragment slowly fell from the sky. It landed in front of the younger Naruto. He picked it up. The moment he touched it, he heard a whisper. Every story has an author. The younger Naruto looked confused. Then another voice answered from inside the fragment. But who writes the author's story? Quote, Naruto's expression changed. The fragment began glowing. And somewhere far beyond the multiverse, a new presence opened its eyes. The author had not been the final enemy. It had only been a character. And the real writer had just awakened. The real writer. The fragment in the younger Naruto's hand began shaking. Naruto immediately stepped forward. Drop it. The younger Naruto threw it onto the ground. But it was too late. The fragment floated into the air. A black circle appeared around it. The entire village became silent. Jiraiya looked at Naruto. This doesn't feel good. Naruto nodded. I know. Quote, the Rinnegan Naruto stared at the fragment. I've seen this before. Naruto looked at him. Where? In the future. What happened? The Rinnegan Naruto's face became pale. Everything disappeared. Quote, the fragment suddenly cracked. A voice came from inside. Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto raised his head. Show yourself. The voice laughed. You still think I am somewhere inside your reality? The sky turned completely black. A massive white eye appeared. But this time, It wasn't looking at Naruto. It was looking at the entire multiverse. The voice continued. I existed before your first universe. I existed before Ion. Quote, I existed before the zero. I existed before the first choice. Naruto clenched his fist. Then what are you? The voice answered. I am the writer. Ion suddenly appeared. His expression was terrified. No, the writer spoke. You remember me. Ion lowered his head. I thought you were gone. Gone. The writer laughed. Nothing written can truly disappear. Naruto looked at Ion. You knew about this. Quote, Ion nodded slowly. I knew there was something beyond the first universe. But I never saw it. The writer answered. Because I never wanted to be seen. The world tree began shaking. Every branch started turning into pages. Naruto stared in disbelief. The realities. They're becoming books. The writer laughed. Every world is a story. Every life is a sentence. Every choice is a new chapter. The younger Naruto looked frightened. Then are we just characters? The writer answered. Yes. Naruto's expression became serious. No. The writer became silent. Naruto continued. We choose. We feel. We change. We aren't just words. Quote. The writer laughed. You still don't understand. I created the possibility of your choices. I allowed your freedom. And I can remove it. The writer raised its hand. Suddenly, the younger Naruto disappeared. Naruto's eyes widened. Naruto. He looked around. His younger self was gone. Jiraiya disappeared next. Then the young Hokage. Then the Rinnegan Naruto. Naruto shouted. Stop. The writer answered. I am simply editing. Naruto's eyes filled with anger. You can't. Why? Because they're real. The writer replied. Only because I wrote them. Naruto looked at the golden leaf. It was fading. The writer continued. Your greatest mistake was believing that freedom means nobody controls you. Naruto looked up. What does it really mean? The writer answered. Freedom means believing you can escape the story. Quote. Naruto suddenly understood. The writer wasn't trying to destroy them. It was trying to make them believe their choices were meaningless. Naruto smiled. Then you're afraid. The writer became silent. Naruto continued. You're afraid that if we stop believing in your story, you won't have any power. The writer's eye narrowed. Careful. Naruto raised the golden leaf. You said every story has an ending. Quote. Then let me tell you something. The golden leaf began glowing. Characters can change their story. The writer attacked. A massive wave of darkness covered the entire sky. Naruto raised his hand, but before the attack reached him, thousands of lights appeared. The younger Naruto returned. Jiraiya returned. The young Hokage returned. The Rinnegan Naruto returned. Then Minato, Kushina, Sasuke, Sakura, Kakashi, Hope. Every reality appeared behind Naruto. The writer stared at them. How? Naruto smiled. Because you forgot one thing. What? We remember each other. Every person raised their hand. The golden leaf became brighter. The world tree transformed into an enormous book. But its pages were completely blank. Naruto looked at the blank pages. This is our story now. The writer became furious. You cannot write without me. Naruto smiled. Maybe, but we can live without knowing what comes next. The blank pages began filling themselves. Not with words, with choices. The writer's eye began cracking. No, Naruto stepped forward. You wanted an ending. We choose a future. You wanted control. We choose freedom. You wanted a story. Naruto smiled. We choose to live it. The writer began disappearing, but before it vanished completely, it whispered, you think this is victory? Naruto looked at it. The writer smiled. You have defeated the writer. But you still haven't asked. Who wrote me? Quote. Everything became silent. Ion looked toward the darkness. His face changed. That's impossible. Naruto asked. What? Ion whispered. If the writer was created by someone, then there is another level above it. Quote. The world tree suddenly opened. Beyond it was an endless white space. No darkness. No stars. No reality. Just one enormous door. And written across the door were 3 words. The beginning of everything. Naruto stared at it. Sasuke stepped beside him. Are you going in? Naruto smiled. Of course. Minato sighed. I knew you'd say that. Kushina laughed. Then let's go. Naruto placed his hand on the door. The door slowly opened. And from the other side, a voice whispered, welcome back, Naruto. Naruto froze. Back. The voice continued. You don't remember me, but I remember you. The door opened completely, and standing on the other side was a man who looked exactly like Naruto. Except he had no shadow. The man without a shadow. Naruto stared at the man standing beyond the door. He looked exactly like him. Same blonde hair, same blue eyes, same face. But there was one difference. He had no shadow. Naruto slowly raised his kunai. Who are you? The man smiled. You've asked me that before. Naruto frowned. No, I haven't. The man shook his head. Not in this timeline. Sasuke activated his Rinnegan. His expression immediately changed. I can't see his existence. Naruto looked at him. What does that mean? Quote. Sasuke answered. It's like he's outside reality. The man smiled. Exactly. Minato stepped forward. Then why do you look like my son? The man looked at Minato. Because Naruto is the closest thing to my original form. Quote. Naruto's expression hardened. Original form. The man nodded. Before there were countless Narutos. There was one. Ion appeared behind them. His face was pale. No. The man looked at him. Still afraid of me, Ion? Ion stepped backward. Naruto turned toward him. You know him. Ion nodded. He's the Origin. Naruto frowned. Origin, Ion explained. Before the first universe. Quote. Before the first choice. Before time. There was only Origin. The man smiled. I created the first possibility. Naruto stared at him. Then you're the one who started everything. Origin nodded. Yes. Naruto stepped forward. Why? Origin looked at him. Because I wanted to know what it felt like to exist. Naruto became silent. Origin continued. But existence requires change. Quote. Change requires choices. Choices create consequences. And consequences create stories. Naruto understood. So you created everything just to experience life. Exactly. Sasuke asked. Then why did you disappear? Quote. Origin looked toward the world tree. Because I became afraid. Of what? Of losing control. Naruto frowned. You created freedom. Yes. And then you were afraid of it. Origin nodded. Freedom created things I never imagined. Love, pain, war, friendship, hope, even you. Naruto smiled slightly. So what's the problem? Origin looked at him. You became something I never intended. Quote. What? A choice I couldn't control. Silence filled the space. Naruto looked at his hands. So I'm the reason you're here. Origin smiled. Yes. Then what do you want? Origin answered. To make one final correction. Naruto's expression changed. Correction. Origin raised his hand. The entire world tree disappeared. Every reality vanished. Minato, Kushina, Sasuke, Sakura, Jiraiya, Hope, everyone disappeared. Naruto stood alone. He looked around. No. Origin's voice echoed. I will return everything to the beginning. Naruto clenched his fists. You can't. I can. Then I won't let you. Quote. Origin appeared in front of him. You cannot defeat the one who created you. Naruto smiled. Maybe not. But I can make you choose. Origin froze. What? Naruto stepped closer. You created the first choice. Quote. You created life. You created freedom. But you never chose what you wanted to become. Origin's expression changed. Naruto continued. So I'm giving you a choice. Destroy everything, or live inside the world you created. Origin stared at him. What would I become? Naruto smiled. One of us. Origin looked toward the empty space. For the first time, he seemed uncertain. Naruto held out his hand. You don't need to control everything. You can experience it, like everyone else. Origin stared at Naruto's hand. Then he slowly reached toward it. But before their hands touched. The entire universe shook. Origin suddenly looked terrified. Something is wrong. Naruto asked. What? Origin looked beyond Naruto. The beginning is ending. A crack appeared in the white space. Then another. Then thousands. The crack spread across existence itself. Sasuke's voice echoed from somewhere far away. Naruto. Naruto turned. Where are you? I don't know. Origin looked at Naruto. The beginning is collapsing. Why? Because you changed the story too many times. Naruto clenched his fists. Then we'll fix it. Origin shook his head. No, there's only one way. Naruto looked at him. What? Origin pointed toward the cracks. Someone has to stay behind. Naruto understood immediately. No, Origin smiled. This time, you don't get to sacrifice yourself. Naruto stared at him. Then who? Origin looked toward the darkness. Me. Naruto shook his head. You created everything. Exactly. I should be the one to finish it. Origin stepped toward the collapsing universe. Naruto grabbed his arm. Wait. Origin looked back. Remember something, Naruto? What? Origin smiled. Even the creator can choose. He released Naruto's hand. Then he stepped into the cracks. A massive explosion of white light filled the beginning. Naruto shouted, Origin. The universe went silent. Then, everything returned. The world tree, the realities, Minato, Kushina, Sasuke, everyone. But Origin was gone. Naruto looked around. Where is he? Aion appeared beside him. He saved the beginning. Naruto looked toward the sky. Will he ever return? Aion smiled. I don't know. Quote. Naruto smiled sadly. Then we'll leave the choice to him. Suddenly, a tiny shadow appeared behind Naruto. He turned. Nothing was there. But on the ground, a single leaf had appeared. It was golden. And beside it was a small message. Your story is finally yours. Naruto smiled. He picked up the leaf. And for the first time, there was no prophecy, no enemy, no destiny, only the future. And Naruto was finally free to choose it. The future Naruto chose. Naruto stood beneath the world tree, holding the golden leaf. For the first time, there was no voice telling him what to do. No prophecy, no enemy, no predetermined ending, only silence. Minato walked toward him. So, what will you choose? Naruto looked at his father. He smiled. I want to go home. Kushina laughed. Finally. Quote. Sasuke crossed his arms. That's surprisingly normal. Naruto smiled. After everything we've been through, normal sounds pretty good. The world tree began opening portals. One by one, the different realities returned to their own worlds. The unchosen returned to their new realities. Hope stayed beside the world tree. The young Hokage returned to his village. The Rinnegan Naruto disappeared into his own future. Jiraiya smiled before leaving. Take care, kid. Naruto smiled. You too, sensei. Then only Naruto, Minato, Kushina, Sasuke, Sakura, and Kakashi remained. Minato looked toward the portal. Ready? Naruto nodded. Yeah, they stepped through. For the first time in what felt like forever, Naruto saw the Konoha he remembered. The village was peaceful. The sun was setting. People were walking through the streets. Children were playing. Naruto stopped. This is home. Kushina hugged him. Welcome back. Naruto smiled. Dad. Minato looked at him. What? Thank you. Minato smiled. For what? For surviving. Minato laughed. I think I should be thanking you. Naruto looked confused. Why? Because you gave me a reason to survive. Naruto's eyes became emotional. Sasuke walked past them. Are you two finished? Naruto laughed. Yeah. They continued toward the village. But something caught Naruto's attention. A small boy was sitting near the academy. He had blonde hair, blue eyes, and 3 whisker marks. Naruto stopped. The child looked at him. Are you a ninja? Naruto smiled. Yes. Are you strong? Naruto laughed. Sometimes. The boy smiled. I want to become strong too. Naruto knelt. Then remember something. Quote. What? Being strong isn't just about winning fights. It's about protecting the people you care about. The boy nodded. I will. Naruto stood. Minato watched from behind. You sound like me. Quote. Naruto smiled. Maybe. Suddenly, a small golden leaf floated through the air. Naruto caught it. The leaf disappeared into his hand. He felt a familiar presence. Origin. Naruto looked toward the sky. You're still watching. No answer came, but the wind moved gently through the trees. Naruto smiled. Then he looked toward Konoha. He had spent so long trying to save every possible future that he had forgotten something simple. He only needed to live his own. The next morning, Naruto stood before the Hokage monument. Minato stood beside him. You know, Naruto said, I don't think I want to be Hokage anymore. Minato raised an eyebrow. Really? Naruto smiled. I want to travel, see the different worlds, help people when they need me. Let everyone choose their own path. Minato smiled. Then go. Naruto looked at him. You're okay with that? Quote. You're my son. I don't need you to become Hokage. I just want you to be happy. Naruto smiled. Thanks, Dad. Sasuke approached. Where are you going? Naruto looked at him. Everywhere. Quote. Sasuke smiled. Then I'll come with you. Naruto laughed. Seriously, Someone has to keep you out of trouble. Kushina shouted from behind them. Take care of each other. Naruto waved. We will. Quote. They walked toward the village gate. Naruto looked back one final time. Minato, Kushina, Konoha, his home. Then he turned toward the road. The golden leaf floated above him. And this time, it wasn't guiding him. It was simply following. Naruto smiled. Let's see where the road goes. Sasuke looked ahead. Wherever it leads. The two friends walked into the sunrise. Behind them, Konoha remained peaceful. Above them, the world tree connected countless realities. And somewhere beyond time, Origin opened his eyes. He smiled. Good choice, Naruto. The story of the multiverse had ended. But Naruto's story, had just begun. The road beyond Konoha. 3 days had passed since Naruto and Sasuke left Konoha. They were walking along a quiet forest road when Naruto suddenly stopped. Sasuke looked back. What? Quote. Naruto pointed ahead. Look, a small village was surrounded by a strange golden mist. Sasuke activated his Rinnegan. I don't see any chakra. Naruto frowned. Neither do I. They walked closer. The moment Naruto entered the mist, the golden leaf began glowing. A voice whispered, Naruto. Naruto froze. Sasuke, did you hear that? Sasuke nodded. Yes. The mist suddenly disappeared. The village was completely empty. Doors were open. Food was still on tables. Clothes were hanging outside houses. But there wasn't a single person. Naruto looked around. What happened here? Sasuke noticed something on the ground. A black mark. He crouched down. This isn't normal. Naruto touched the mark. Suddenly, his vision changed. He saw hundreds of people running. A massive shadow was chasing them. Then the vision disappeared. Naruto stood up. They're alive. Sasuke looked at him. Where? Naruto pointed toward the mountains. There. They followed the trail into the forest. After several minutes, they found a massive cave. Inside were hundreds of villagers. They were trapped inside a transparent barrier. Naruto stepped forward. Everyone, stay calm. A little girl looked at him. Are you here to save us? Naruto smiled. Yeah. Sasuke examined the barrier. It's not chakra. Naruto looked at him. Then what is it? Something older. Suddenly, the barrier began shrinking. The villagers screamed. Naruto raised his hand. Get behind me. Golden chakra surrounded him. He struck the barrier. Boom. Nothing happened. Naruto stepped back. That's strange. A voice echoed through the cave. You can't break it. Naruto turned. A mysterious woman stood on a cliff above them. She wore a white cloak. Her eyes were completely golden. Sasuke immediately prepared to attack. Who are you? The woman smiled. My name is Lyra. Naruto frowned. Did you trap these people? Lyra shook her head. No, I saved them. Naruto looked confused. From what? Lyra pointed toward the darkness outside. The thing coming for this world. Quote. The cave suddenly shook. A deep roar echoed through the mountains. The villagers became terrified. Naruto looked toward the entrance. What is that? Lyra answered. A creature that doesn't belong to any reality. Quote. Sasuke narrowed his eyes. Another multiverse threat. Lyra shook her head. No, this time, it's not from the multiverse. Naruto stared at her. Then where is it from? Lyra looked at the golden leaf. It comes from outside existence. Naruto's expression became serious. How do we stop it? Lyra smiled. We don't. Naruto frowned. Then what do we do? We run. Naruto shook his head. I'm not leaving these people. Quote. Lyra looked at him. I knew you'd say that. Suddenly, the mountain exploded. A gigantic creature emerged from the ground. It had no eyes, no mouth, only a massive body covered in black cracks. The creature roared. The entire cave shook. Naruto stepped forward. Everyone stay behind me. Sasuke stood beside him. Ready. Naruto smiled. Always. Lyra raised her hand. A golden weapon appeared. She looked at Naruto. Whatever happens, don't let it touch the golden leaf. Naruto looked at the leaf. Why? Lyra's expression changed. Because that creature isn't hunting the villagers. It's hunting you. Naruto stared at the creature. The monster suddenly stopped. Its entire body turned toward Naruto. Then, for the first time, it spoke. Origin's choice has created a new problem. Quote. Naruto's eyes widened. The creature continued. And you are the problem. The golden leaf began shaking. Naruto tightened his grip. Then come and get me. The creature charged. And the next battle was about to begin.